everyone. Welcome back to Rise and Lead Women's Leadership Perspectives. I am your host, ChèRee Wiley, and this episode is going to focus on leadership as a calling and a choice. So, last week I put out a blog that talked about this very topic, and for this month, this is really, really important to me because it's very near and dear to my heart. So, many times in the past, in past episodes, I've mentioned the way that leaders come to leadership, how we show up on a regular basis. And that's what I consider as the choice. A lot of times we understand and believe that we were called to be leaders. And if you go back and talk to family members and, you think about history, a lot of us exhibited leadership qualities early on in life, right? So you might have been that kid that was always kind of leading the group on the playground or in the classroom, or you were the one with those new ideas who wanted to do things differently and think outside of the box. And so there were probably people along the way who identified and noticed those leadership skills in you early on. And so those things just kind of grow and develop over time. And that's what I consider the calling. And so it's something that comes natural to us. Even though I in general am a quiet person, I've always had leadership skills. There have always been times when I've looked at things differently than everyone else, and I kind of wanted to try a different path. I could see a solution to a problem that other people were just kind of fixated and focused on the problem. And so that there was the calling. And you hear the phrase, it comes from the Bible in Matthew 22:14. It talks about how many are called but few are chosen. And I feel like the chosen part means that there's certain things that you have to choose to do, right? So we choose to do certain things that make us good leaders. I may be a natural leader, but I may choose to do things that make people not want to follow me. I may choose to do things that are damaging to other people. But when you want to be a good leader, you choose to do things that build people up. And a good leader makes choices each and every day that actually elevate and enhance those in which we lead. And that is the responsibility of leadership. We should be making people better. When they leave our presence, they should be better than they were when they came, because of the encouragement and the support that we give them while they are our responsibility. Because we, again, in choosing to answer the call of leadership, need to understand that we hold great responsibility in our hands. It is so much bigger than just having a title. And a lot of people have the title of boss, have the title of leader, but they don't operate in a way that is excellent. They don't operate in a way that actually helps people and makes people better. And so there are people who are under them who are being crushed every day. And I've always said, because I have experienced, and I talk more about this in the blog, I've experienced bad leaders. I've experienced leaders that did not make me want to do anything except survive each and every day. I would literally not want to be in those spaces because I felt like I was being oppressed instead of being pushed forward to reach my best self and my best place. And so in those cases, those leaders were choosing not to show up as their best selves for a number of reasons. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge the fact that all behavior has meaning. And I've said this before, and I truly mean it. When leaders behave in a certain way, there's a reason why they do. And it could be for a number of reasons. Again, this podcast focuses on women in leadership. And we all know that for women, leadership is not always a comfortable place. There are times when we're questioned. There are times when we're doubted. There are times when we're made to feel as though we don't belong where we are, that we have not earned the right to be in certain places. And so in those cases, some leaders decide to show up differently. They decide to be mean and hateful. They decide to come off in a certain way because they are trying to prove themselves. Their own insecurities make them behave in a way that the rest of us just don't want to deal with them. And it doesn't get any respect, right? Because some of us think that leadership means being feared. I would much rather be respected than feared. And I think that people need to understand the difference. Someone who is feared because of their abrasiveness, feared because they're the type of person that will embarrass someone at a meeting, feared because they're the type of person that will fire someone over something small because, people make mistakes, and don't have that compassion or that understanding. That's what causes fear to happen in a workplace, in a business, whatever it is that person has oversight over. But respect comes from a different place. Respect comes from people understanding that the leader is making decisions based off of what is best for everyone, not what's best for their own personal gain or their emotions. They also understand that that leader has their best interest at heart. They might not agree with the decision, but if the leader has made it very clear that the reason behind the decision is because it is what's best, people will respect that. They'll get behind that. And so we do have to understand there is a balance there too, because as leaders, we shouldn't be choosing to show up as friend, because there's definitely a line, right? So in leadership, I can respect you. I can get to know you. I can have, build those understandings and bonds with you. But there has to be a line between you being my bestie and me overseeing what you're doing. Because what happens when you don't have that line there is that things get crossed, right? Bestie thinks that she can do whatever she wants to do because you're going to let it slide because y'all are friends. No, I need you to do your job. Right? I'll support you through that. If their growth and development needs to happen, that's fine. But if you're making choices that are harming this company or that are outside of what I specifically asked or set forth for everyone to do, then we need to correct that situation. And so again, those are choices, the constant choices that we're making to how we will act and behave as leaders in leadership. And while I'm on that, just a little segue, understanding that when you cross the line and you don't have those boundaries, it does impact everyone else, and they will doubt your leadership when certain people can behave in certain ways, but other people are held to different standard or accountability across the board. If the expectation is what it is, you could be my best friend or you could be someone that I've known for 5 minutes. The expectation is the expectation. And so another thing with that is that a good leader is going to have consistency. That it is the same. Everyone is treated the same and everyone gets the same. Now, again, when we're talking about having equitable spaces, there are different situations and circumstances that we do have to evaluate on a case-by-case basis. But that is not the same thing as someone getting favorable treatment because you've made a decision that some people have to follow certain rules that others don't. Because again, we want to always show up as our best selves, and a good leader is going to be consistent. A good leader is going to have an understanding of compassion, having that empathy, being able to navigate the different emotions that you have in those spaces, making sure that you are, again, people-centered environments where we take into account that people have different things going on. Again, as me as a leader, I don't want people to have to make me feel like I have to choose between my role as mother and my role as leader, right? The same thing happens for those who we oversee. If I have an employee who has a sick child or a sick relative or whatever, I need to be understanding of those circumstances. Now, if that understanding starts to be taken advantage of, then that's a different conversation. But we need to always show up and understand that the human side is first, because we are human. And some of us have a tendency to want people to have grace for us, but we don't want to have grace when it comes to them. And so all of these things are choices that we're making each and every day. And we have to get to a place where we really ask ourselves, how do we want to be perceived by others? What kind of leader do we want to be? What kind of impact do we want to make on others, right? Because again, even though I say being perceived by others, good leaders are not liked by everyone, but I would hope that they are respected by those same people, because again, I am not here necessarily to make you just love me as the best person ever. But I am here to grow you. I am here to support you. I am here to get you to the next level. I am here to try to bring things out of you that you yourself may not yet see. And that leadership capacity hits on every single area. Yes, I'm a leader in business. I'm a leader in education. I'm also a leader in ministry. There are so many different areas in which my leadership capacity shows up that I have to be very mindful in all of those spaces of what my purpose is. My purpose is to inspire change in the lives of other people, no matter what arena or area I'm in. That is why I was created. And I truly believe that. My personality is one that is a natural motivator who wants people to do well. Even the fact that this podcast exists is because I want to help someone else. Because there are a lot of leaders who are just getting started, leaders who may have even been doing this for a few years, who are unsure and uncertain because they've been in spaces where they've had leaders who made choices that made them doubt themselves, made them doubt their ability to do what they were called to do. But I'm here to tell you that just because you had an example that may have been wrong, I would like to give you some options that are different. I would like for this podcast to be a place for you to come on a consistent basis and say, hey, there's someone, and there are someone who hosted, but as well as the guests that we have on the podcast who can show you that there are ladies in areas all throughout that are doing this thing the correct way, that are leading in ways that are actually bringing positive change to our community and to the women in which they serve, and who are doing what's best for them. Because again, going back to all that we talked about in the month of June, you have to also make sure that you are well in your own space in order for you to show up best for others. And again, I just mentioned the choices that people are making, whether good or bad, are based off of what they're experiencing in those moments for themselves. So this is your opportunity to think about the choices that you are making as leader. And if you acknowledge that there are some choices, some ways that you're showing up that are not the ways that you want to be viewed, not in the ways that you want to be remembered, then I would encourage you to make shifts today. I always share stories from my own experiences. I remember when I first started teaching, it was my very first teaching job. I was lateral entry. So for those who are not from the education world, it means that I did not originally go to school to be an educator. And I've kind of shared some of my story in the past. I went to school to be a journalist. That is what I got my undergrad in. I wanted to write and tell stories. And I still get to do that, but it was just, it was a different journey that was kind of predestined, laid out for me. My steps were already ordered and I didn't even really know it. And so when I started teaching, it was after I had gone to graduate school, and I got a teaching job as a 7th grade English teacher at an alternative school, and I was not prepared. There's no other way for me to put it. I was absolutely unprepared for that particular assignment. However, I was called to that assignment, and again, at the time, I didn't know that, but I went into it. This was a steady job, consistent, I'll be able to pay my bills, and that was my thought process. And I remember that first month in that position was horrible. And it was horrible because of the things that I didn't know. I didn't understand classroom management. I didn't really know the curriculum. I had gone to school and I had a lot of English credits, which allowed me to get the position as an English teacher. However, the pedagogy, all the things that I needed to be equipped with to be able to do this job well, I didn't have. And so I remember my first principal, Miss Caldwell. I loved her. She was a sweet lady, very calm. The way that her leadership style was just reassuring. And I remember, her coming to my room because in that first month, it was a lot of calls about, kids yelling and me yelling and just the chaos that was taking place in that space. And I remember just, even though I wasn't doing my job well, guys, like there's no way for me to sugarcoat this. I was not good at my job yet. She would come and check on me, and she would talk to me, and she never made me feel like I was wrong. She always made me feel like whatever wasn't happening right yet. And that I still had an opportunity to fix it and that it would get better. And because of her, I kept coming back. And there were days when I didn't want to come back. There were days that I went home and I cried because I was just like, I'm terrible at this. Like, I made a mistake. I don't know what I'm doing. And her guidance, her calm, easy way, her silent reassurance, right? It was just like a silent strength. Just her presence in the space made me feel like I could get it together. Like eventually I could get it together. And that's exactly what happened. I kept trying things. I kept figuring out new ways. And by the end of that school year, I had done a complete turnaround. Things had gotten better. The classroom management was 1,000 times better. And I was able to connect with the students and build relationships. And I can say that that was one of my best and favorite teaching years, because that was where I was forged by fire. I got my stripes in that first year, but she showed me what good leadership looks like. She showed me how to encourage someone even when they're not doing so great. She did not throw me away, nor did she ever make me feel like I should just walk away. She nurtured the gift that was on the inside of me until it came out of me. She acknowledged what was in me until it came out for everyone to see. And those students benefited from that growth because we were able to grow together. And so I will always be thankful to Miss Caldwell, because if I honestly say that I modeled a lot of what happened after that experience from her. Right. And it's been many times throughout my career that I have given her credit, even though, this time is more on more a public platform, but where I've given her credit for what she was able to do in me and for me that year. And she showed me what type of leader I wanted to be. I want to be the type of leader that encourages people to get to that next step, even when they're not there yet. And I think that that can be really difficult, because a lot of times we get stuck on what we see now. But as my bishop says, you got to see it before you see it. She saw the amazing educator in me before it came forth. And that's what that means. You have to see it before you see it. And so when I interact with people that I am responsible for, people that I'm called to, I have to see what's in them even before it comes forth. It may be someone that's difficult. It may be someone that doesn't really want me to lead them because of my age, or because I'm a woman, or because of whatever the case may be. But I have to see the potential in them. And then I set forth from that point to bring out those things in which they may not yet even see. And so I would say to you again, the charge is make the choice to be a good leader. Leadership is a calling, but how you lead is a choice. I thank you for joining me on today. I hope that you got something that you can use in the future out of today's episode, and I hope to see you next time.